The NHL playoffs are unpredictable, and this year might be the most unpredictable ever. With the amount of cases being reported in the past little while, who knows if this video is even going to be relevant, because maybe they'll just have to cancel the season. And there's so much talk about why teams are threatening in the playoffs, why they're so good, why they have a chance to win, but we thought it'd be funny to take a different approach. We thought, why not explain why teams won't win in the playoffs, and come up with bizarre scenarios that may or may not happen, because as crazy as some of them are, honestly, they could still happen. Hey guys, it's Matt from Puck Rivals here, and in this video me and Billy are going to be going through each of the playoff teams and come up with a scenario of why they won't win in the playoffs. But this is all just for fun, so let's just all have a good time here. I'm going to be going over the West teams first, and then Billy's going to be going over the East teams, so make sure to keep watching to see what crazy scenario we come up with for why your team doesn't win in the playoffs. But with that, let's get started. So the first matchup we're going to get started with is Calgary versus Winnipeg, an all-Canadian matchup. And so for the Calgary Flames, the reason they won't win in the playoffs is because Matthew Tkachuk gets suspended in Game 1. Tkachuk plays a very aggressive, in-your-face style. He gets on the opponent's nerves, and he's very good at it. But in this scenario, he goes a little too far and gets suspended for the entire series in Game 1. And that would be a big hit to Calgary as he provides a lot of offensive upside. Now for the Winnipeg Jets, we have the reason them not winning the playoffs is because Connor Hellebuyck gets injured in warm-ups and is unable to play the rest of the playoffs. Now, Hellebuyck helped carry the team with a very depleted blue line after the loss of Tyler Myers, Jacob Trouba, and Dustin Byfuglien over the summer. So with Hellebuyck being out, this would be a defensive collapse for Winnipeg, and they wouldn't win the series. And the next matchup we have is the Edmonton Oilers against the Chicago Blackhawks. For Edmonton, there's a two-word answer why they wouldn't win the playoffs, and it's Patrick Kane. He's been so clutch for Chicago for so many years now, proving he can show up and provide when it counts. He's the kind of guy that could easily take hold of a series and take Edmonton down on his own. In the playoff times is where he really shines, so that could honestly happen. Now on the other side of things, we have Chicago. And Chicago won't win because Crawford gets hurt and Subban is forced to play. And because McDavid gets 4 hat-tricks in a row and sweeps them. Which, I mean, would be pretty crazy, but it's also Connor McDavid, and he definitely has the skill to do that. And now moving on, we have the Vancouver Canucks against the Minnesota Wild. Now the reason the Canucks won't win is because Minnesota's boring style of play will put the whole team to sleep and they'll be completely out of it for the entire series. Minnesota's team doesn't really have a flashy style of play, so they really have the potential to shut down Vancouver's star players if their strategy actually works. And for Minnesota's side, the Wild won't win because Pettersson scores more goals than the entire Minnesota team in the series, which would very much suck for the Wild, but wouldn't be a huge surprise because Minnesota is the king of mediocrity in the league for the past while. They've been good enough to make the playoffs some years, but they haven't really made it that far during those times and haven't been bad enough to be able to properly rebuild their group as well. So it's not far off. And for our final matchup, we have the Nashville Predators against the Arizona Coyotes. And the reason Nashville won't win is plain and simple. The Coyotes are hungrier. They want to finally make the playoffs again after so many years of being out of it. And also Rene is back to his shaky form and it's too late when Saros goes in. The series is over. Now moving to Arizona, the reason why they won't win is because they don't score a single goal in the entire series. And one reason that is because Kessel eats too many hot dogs during quarantine is so useless in the series. And with Arizona's scoring problems throughout the year and Pekka Rinne's ability to actually turn it on, even though it's been inconsistent, when it's on, he's good. And not scoring a single goal is obviously very unlikely. But I mean, come on, maybe. Now this is slightly different as we're moving on to teams that are already in the playoffs, so critiquing them will be a little bit of a different process since we don't know who they're playing yet. But first off, we have the Dallas Stars. So the reason they would lose is because Seguin is the only one who scores in the entire series. And it wouldn't be surprising because Dallas has really struggled to score. They haven't found scoring depth. Some of their top guys have been lacking. This year's free agent acquisition in Joe Pavelski has proved very disappointing as he wasn't scoring at his usual 30-goal pace this year. And next we have the Vegas Golden Knights. And just like the luck sometimes at the casino, we feel that the reason they're not going to win in the playoffs is they get severe bad luck because they're a host city. I mean, it's not confirmed, at least not when I'm recording this, but they're definitely the front runner and people are saying that they pretty much just not officially have a spot. So with that, they're going to get severe bad luck and they're not going to win. Plain and simple. Now for the Colorado Avalanche, we had to get a little creative. They're not going to win the playoffs because Cale Makar sees the uncertainty of the sports landscape going into the future and wants to further his education. So he goes back to college. And with that, the defense can't keep up and they lose in the playoffs, which is really unfortunate because Makar wants to go back for his PhD. And lastly, we have the St. Louis Blues, and they just don't care about winning a cup again because they can't have a championship party or a parade this year. So they've won the cup, and they've seen how fun it is to party after with the city and the fans. And the fact that they won't be able to do that just doesn't interest them. So then it's like, what's the point? Because then they realize it's not as fun or rewarding. So instead they just don't care. And that's why they're going to lose in the playoffs. And that completes the West, and now Billy's going to go over the East teams and why they won't win in the playoffs. Take it over, Billy.
Thanks, Matt. And with that, let's get started on the Eastern Conference. To start things off, the first matchup, we have the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Columbus Blue Jackets. So let's begin with the Leafs, why they won't win. Because it's been such a long break since the NHL last played, it's almost like a brand new season for everyone. Which means Freddie Andersen might go back to his October form, which, as you may know, is not very good. We know the Leafs can score, but if Freddie can't bail them out, they're probably screwed. Also, it's the Leafs. Even if they beat Columbus, they'll probably lose to Boston in the first round anyways, so for the Blue Jackets, it's a different story. The Jackets won't win because, as you know, John Tortorella is their coach. He's got a bit of a temper. Torts is going to find something that he'll get so mad at that he's going to bench all his best players, and the bottom six won't be able to get it done, plain and simple. Now moving on to the next matchup, we got the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Montreal Canadiens. And it's quite clear why Pittsburgh won't win. Even though they got Sid, they got Gino. Price, he's just going to shut them out 3 times and see ya Pittsburgh. Have fun in the lottery. Price will regain his old absolutely elite form and just dominate the Penguins. They won't be able to score a single goal on him. Now as for the Habs, they won't win. Well, because they're playing Sidney Crosby, and he does Sidney Crosby things. The man is magic in the playoffs. He's clutch. Crosby and Malkin could make Price get pulled in 3 games, man. They're just that good and that clutch. Not much Montreal will be able to do. Moving on to the next matchup, we got the New York Islanders versus the Florida Panthers. We'll start with the Isles for this one. Now the Isles are a very, very structured and defensive team. But Semyon Varlamov, who hasn't been in the playoffs in 6 years, starts to panic under pressure, and their defensive style starts to waver, and the Panthers, with their elite offense, average about 5 goals a game, absolutely sinking the Islanders back into the ocean. As for their Floridian foe, the Panthers, they can score goals, no question. But even $10 million Sergei Bobrovsky struggled this year, and, well, the Panthers will lose simply because Bobrovsky just lets in the first shot every single game, and the team will just get so deflated from that there's no coming back. Moving onwards to the last matchup in the East, we got the Carolina Hurricanes against the New York Rangers. The Hurricanes have no chance of beating the Rangers, well, because their goaltenders are going to get injured. They're going to have to throw Zamboni legend David Ayers back into the net. But unfortunately for the Canes, the Rangers have no problem solving him, unlike another team that we know. On the flip side, the Rangers won't beat the Hurricanes also due to goaltending reasons. Their goalie love triangle of Igor Shesterkin, Alexander Georgiev, and Henrik Lundqvist all do so bad. They all end up playing a game, and each one of them shits the bed. Poor New York. Going on ahead now, we got the top 4 seeds in the Eastern Conference, and as Matt had explained, these are more general reasons, since we have no idea who they're even going to play, so here we go. We'll kick things off with the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, like I mentioned before, Pittsburgh, they're going to win against Montreal because Crosby's going to do Crosby things. Price is going to get pulled in 3 games. Next thing you know, the Flyers are stuck playing their arch rival, the Penguins. And what does Sidney Crosby do best? Eliminate his rivals in the playoffs. So, that's how you're going to go out, Philly. You're going to lose to the Penguins in the first round. Next up, the Washington Capitals. They're satisfied they've got their cup. Ovi's satisfied he's got his cup. And now he's just here for a good time. Because of that, Ovi doesn't score a single goal, and that completely dries up Washington's offense. And that will ultimately be the downfall of the Capitals. Next up, we got the Tampa Bay Lightning. You know they're going to be fired up about how their playoffs ended last year. They're going to come back hungry. But unfortunately for them, Freddie Andersen will go to his October form, and the Blue Jackets will beat the Leafs. And who will the Lightning play? The Blue Jackets, of course. Brings back the demons they had from last season, and they just can't handle it, and the Blue Jackets go on to sweep them. Again. Last and certainly least, we have the Boston Bruins. The Bruins will face some real karma, and that's why they won't win. They will finally get some consequences for Brad Marchand licking people in the playoffs. The Leafs will beat the Blue Jackets, and then go on to beat the Bruins, after Brad Marchand finally gets consequences and gets suspended for licking Austin Matthews. And thus ends the Bruins' reign over the Leafs. And that's that. That's why every team in the play-ins and playoffs won't win in this year's playoffs. Quite simple as that. But in the end, I hope you guys enjoyed that. This was just a fun video we decided to make during the dog days of summer. On behalf of Matt and myself, thanks for watching. And if you enjoy hockey content, don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button. See you next time.